Hello, this is Chuck Solomon, and welcome to the Candidate Experience Podcast, where we focus on the job candidate journey from apply to onboard and the space in between. Let's get started. You care about the candidate experience, but have you ever wondered exactly how to bring your company to that next level and offer a world-class experience to your candidates? It's not easy. Fortunately, Candidate.fyi can help. Their solution guides candidates through your hiring journey, enhancing transparency and communication at every touch point. You'll also gain valuable insights on what's working and what's not with your hiring process. Best of all, it integrates directly with your ATS. Head on over to Candidate.fyi and see how to transform your company's candidate experience today. In this China networking and ATS episode, Jerel Bonner joins as my guest, and we discuss the good, bad, and ugly of the candidate journey. Hiring managers should pay special attention to my guest's suggestions on how to go about building their teams. He also offers job candidates advice on how to go about finding their next great job opportunity. Here's a hint: it doesn't include applying online. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast, please subscribe and please share with others. Want to comment, discuss, or provide feedback? You can send me a note via LinkedIn or via the contact form on our site, www.thecx.xyz. I thank you in advance for your feedback, and here's my interview. Hey everyone, today on our episode of the Candidate Experience Podcast, we have Jerel Bonner with Corralling Chaos. I don't think I've ever said this to you before, but I love the name. So welcome, Jerel.
Thank you, Chuck. We're running at about a 99.99% approval rate on the name. We've only had one person tell us they didn't get it.
Awesome. I think it's a very catchy name. So, you're welcome. Tell people about yourself personally, as well as a little bit about what you do at Corralling Chaos.
Okay, sure. So I'm a bit of a maverick in the workforce because I've actually been working as an independent entrepreneur since 2002 after the dot-com bust. I had a 25-year career in IT, and after the dot-com bust, I went off to China for 14 years. After I came back from China and learning how to do management consulting and leadership development, I started Corralling Chaos with Ted Benson, who's my managing partner as well. Corralling Chaos is all about helping companies understand that their only market differentiator today is the human potential of their workforce. And we're here to help them understand that to lower that cost, they need to retain people longer and develop those people, because when those people stay longer, they can really cut their costs of recruiting. And we want people to work in happy environments that are sustainable and can go past 5 or 6 years.
I heard you say cutting recruiting cost. I hear that from my clients all the time. They're always trying to find a way of cutting recruiting costs. So that's good to hear. China, tell me, how many years were you in China?
So I was in China for 14 years. I lived in 3 different cities. I got my first taste of management consulting in the HR space, working for a training and development company out of Shanghai, where I opened up their satellite office in Nanjing, and I ran that office for about 2.5 years. We did business English and seminar training programs for everything about how to write great business letters, how to write projects, how to manage teams, how to run meetings, things like that.
Gotcha. What was that like, though? Like, you were an American working in China. Were there lots of other English speakers there, or did you have to pick up Mandarin Chinese? How did that work?
So we in the corporate training job. We delivered most of the material was basically to help the Chinese workforce speak better English. And then as I went into the management consulting practice and I started my old company in China called Sharpening Axes, we were focused on helping senior executives work with global teams. And again, I was never about teaching English, but everything was done in English for multinationals because at the end of the day, the international teams couldn't speak Chinese. So the Chinese had to understand how to communicate their messages in English to their international peers. But I never charged for the English. I charged for the business thinking.
Gotcha. I'm assuming you picked up some Chinese along the way?
Yes, I'm pretty fluent. I can sit in a conversation and understand 80 to 85% of the Chinese, and I can read and write Chinese as well.
Wow, that's a lot more than I can, or probably most of our users can as well. So
probably,
yeah. I think I'm maxed out at Ni Hao. So
there you go. Hello.
Yeah, awesome. So interesting international as well as U.S. based experience there. Awesome. I'm betting that you have had a bad experience at some point in your career in the hiring, your own personal hiring process. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've had more than my share.
We'll just focus on one now.
Let's focus on one. So there was a company, a French company, that was looking to expand its training and development catalog workshop business in China. They had a small program in Beijing with one of the most famous Chinese universities, which is called Renmin Daxue, which is Renmin University, and they were sending over financial advisors to France to teach them international business. And then they had another small business component in Shanghai teaching people international finance as well. And they wanted to expand their catalog business into China, in Beijing, Shanghai, and some of the surrounding cities around those things. And they had customers like Siemens, Bosch, all the big, German and international French companies, Suez, all these big, international European companies. They were already customers in Europe, and they wanted to say, hey, how can we sell to their Chinese operations as well? So they were recruiting me, and for about 8 months, I went to a couple of meetings where I met the head of China several times, and he kept dragging me along. And at this point, I really didn't have anything on the radar. And so they were recruiting me to be the general manager of China to expand this footprint. And they were dragging me along. They asked me for reports. They asked me for business plans and put together a budget. And I did all that. I met the senior Chinese guy a couple of times, and chasing him was just a nightmare. I couldn't get him to call me back. I couldn't get him to confirm what was going on. We would have meetings once or twice a month, and he really just strung me along. And it was really becoming frustrating because this was in the summer of 2008. I had put together a plan. I had talked to the international business development manager, and I also talked to the COO. And in August of 2008, these folks had said to me, we don't understand why he has not extended an offer yet. So I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, he told us he was going to make an offer to you. And then in late September 2008, he called me down to Shanghai to meet the CEO. I met the CEO for an hour and a half. And the CEO said to me, oh, this all sounds great. This all looks good. We want you to do this. What's the next step? And I looked at the CEO and I looked at the head of China and I said, you guys got to put a contract on the table. You have to extend an offer. And the CEO said, oh, no problem. We can do that. We're ready to go. We need to do this and we're ready to go. As everybody knows, October 2008 was, the GFC, as they call it in China, the Great Financial Crisis.
Right.
And they disappeared. They ghosted me.
Right.
And they never got back to me. And they even stiffed me $200 for my expenses to go to Shanghai for the interview.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so it was a pretty much after the crisis hit, everything slammed to a halt, and of course they weren't going to hire me. So that was my worst recent recruiting process.
You might actually have the worst worst of all the guests I've had. And I asked all my guests this sort of same question, your bad experience, but you might have, I don't know, we might do some voting on this, who has the worst experience, but I think that's pretty high. 8 months. Yeah. 8 months being strung along. Did they, I think I heard you say you had to put together some plans. Did they actually make you do some work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually put together, a go-to-market strategy, target cities, target profiles, and the budget for what it would cost to make that happen.
You didn't get paid for that either, I'm assuming.
I did not get paid for that.
Yeah, I figured as much. If they stiffed you on the $200 in travel reimbursement, they probably stiffed you on that. Well, yeah. I guess, market conditions globally at that time are what they are or were. And so, but, what could they have, give us a couple of examples of things that this company could have done differently with you to really improve that candidate experience, irregardless of, they can't change, no one can change the global economics and stuff, but what could they have done better?
Well, what they could have done better is the team could have had a meeting where the two people that said he should have made me an offer were actually on the phone with him and me, all saying to him, the decision maker, when are you going to extend an offer to this guy? Because the international business development director was like, we need to get this program going. We need to build up our Chinese operations. And the COO was like, I got the budget. You asked for money for this guy's salary. So what's the holdup here? So that's what they could have done better. So just so that people know, I tend not to go through application tracking systems. So I tend to seek out these kind of business deals and these kind of employment opportunities through the channels. And so, people need to do their homework. This guy was referred to me through somebody in my network. I take more responsibility of what I should have done differently. What I should have done is I shouldn't have done so much of the work, and I really should have worked harder at getting my sharpening axes business off the ground faster in China than waiting for these people to make a decision. However, when you evaluate an opportunity, you got to look at the upside potential. And I looked at the upside potential and knew that if they didn't make an offer and it didn't come through, I'd have to start my China operations and China business anyhow. So that's where it kind of went.
Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you sharing what was obviously a pretty poor candidate experience. My hope with this podcast is really that companies do some self-reflection and listen into your experience and the experiences that are shared by some of my other guests and realize that companies really realize that perhaps 8 months or even 3 months is just simply way too long a period of time to make a job candidate go through start to finish. And also maybe look at the number of interviews they're making candidates go through as well. 10, 12, I've even heard of 14 plus interviews candidates having to go through. That probably those are probably too long as well. In fact, if you explore what Google has done, and they readily share this information, they've already analyzed the correct number of interviews. They certainly have a large volume of data to go through, and Google says that 4 interviews is the ideal number in order to make a hiring decision. Once you get past 4, there's that law of diminishing returns. But my main problem I keep hearing, not just from you, Jerel, but I heard this from a number of candidates, is that really there seems to be a lack of a process in place. So what I mean by that is I think the candidate should really know going in from the very beginning that typically this is how long the process takes. This is typically how many interviews and who you typically will be interviewing for this role. I think having a process in place like that just lets a candidate know, really upfront what they're in for. You said you don't generally apply through ATS. And this would be more for candidates that are listening in right now. What are your steps or processes with, not following through sort of a traditional applying through a career portal, going through ATS? How do you do that, or how did you do that then, or how would you do that now? What would you suggest?
Okay, great question, Chuck. So basically, the application tracking system is designed to keep people out. Depending on who you talk to, I've heard things from HR managers that say they use the application tracking system for EEOC compliance, that's equal employment opportunity compliance. So they can always go in and say, look, we got all these resumes from all these various people and stuff. So let's start with a high level thing. A couple of years, I'm a really big fan of lots of podcasts, and one podcast I heard had a forum, and some guy actually wrote on the forum back in 2011. In 1 year, this guy submitted 700 plus applications online. He got 14 responses saying, thank you for applying. He got 3 interviews for 3 different jobs, and one position went all the way and he got an offer. So if you think that you got to fill out 700 online applications to get one offer, that's just a huge waste of time.
Sure.
So what I share with candidates, especially people that are really good and really can justify that they are high potentials or top performers, what top performers do is they don't go looking for work. Work finds them. So I know I've coached several general managers in China that have said, I need to find a job. I said, you don't find general manager jobs. General manager jobs find you. So if you take the position of what I really recommend most candidates do is target 6 companies that they want to work for. Know the division they want to work in which is in their location, and then find the job title of the hiring manager that they would want to work for. So, and this is LinkedIn's total strength for the job seeker. I can find a company, I can find who's in my city, and I can find out if the hiring manager is in my city or is not in my city. And then what they need to do is what LinkedIn lets you do is at the end of the day, the hiring manager works with HR to make an offer. The hiring manager and his team says, who do we want to extend an offer to? And then HR, on behalf of the hiring manager, makes the offer. What I tell people is your challenge is to find the hiring manager before he has an opening. Build a relationship with that person through LinkedIn and other networking events or face-to-face networking events, and convince that person that you have the skills so that they want to interview you when a position opens up in their department. When that position opens up in their department, then they just tell HR, hey, in addition to the people in the application tracking system, bring in Thomas, bring in Sarah, bring in Rosie. Sure. And then Rosie then is the top seed because she's already spent 6 months building a relationship with the hiring manager. And so she's got the quickest path to getting a yes and an offer. And it's basically Rosie's job not to blow up the interviewing process so that she doesn't get the offer. So that you can find the hiring manager and you can build relationships with these people. If you have 6 to 8 hiring managers that you have strong relationships with, the key companies you want to work for and be employed by because you like their culture, then somebody in a 1 year period will have an opening for you, especially in today's market.
Right. What I think I hear you're saying is it's really on the candidate side of things, it's really about self-promotion or self-marketing and networking.
Yes, absolutely. Totally.
Yeah. I heard a statistic, believe it was less than 5% of jobs are filled coming through the career site and the applicant tracking system. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but seems like a pretty low number. And your number of 700 applications for that gentleman to get one job is worse than 5% in his case.
Right. So you're spot on, Chuck. I've seen numbers that say anywhere between 60 to 65% of employees of hires come through the referral system or through people they know. It's not, it's the hidden job market. It's not going through the application tracking system, unless you're IBM, right? IBM, Oracle, Cisco, they got tens of thousands, so they can get 3 or 4 people out of their application tracking system and hope it works. But I don't think anybody that I can tell you in the last 20 years of my career, most of the employment offers I got was through my network and not applying through application tracking systems. In fact, I can tell you 75% of the last 4, I had 4 jobs in the last 20 years. 75% of them were through my network.
Wow. Yeah, I just heard from one of my clients Friday, I believe, who said they have a position and they have 150 resumes out there. They put the job out there on their career portal and it advertised it in a couple of different job sites, and 150. And I said, well, that's great. And my client said, no, it's not great. I don't have time to go through 150 resumes to find that essentially that needle in the haystack. So that's one of the things that I try to do for my clients is help sort of sharpen the saw, if you will, on making sure they're attracting the best candidates in the first place. So it's better, in my opinion, and I think a lot of my clients' opinions, that they'd rather look at maybe 5, perhaps 10 candidates that are well qualified, but they're not going to spend the time, or they're going to spend very little time on looking through 150 resumes because they just don't have the time. So.
Right. So it's funny you say that, because in China, I knew a company that had created a tool for getting people to apply for positions through the mobile devices because mobile is so hot. And,
Sure.
And they ran a pilot program with L'Oreal for a management training program, and they put it out on this mobile platform. And in China, they always say we never get enough. Well, this one management training program had 75 positions they were looking to fill. They had 35,000 applicants.
Wow.
Ow, right? And then they whittled that down. And then from the 35,000, they whittled down the top 500, interviewed the top 500 to select 75. And I was like, and yet some Chinese HR people will go, 35,000 applicants is not enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what? Not enough. Who's got time to read, So anyhow, that some people just get silly with that number.
Yeah, you got me beat on the 150 by a lot, for sure.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you would say are things that you would like to see improved in terms of the what companies can do with candidate experience to improve it?
Yeah. So what companies can do is actually put the hiring responsibilities on the hiring manager, not the HR team. So HR might be responsible for making sure the shelves are stocked, but at the end of the day, it's the hiring manager that is responsible for filling positions. One of the caveats and stories I like to tell my audience is if I'm a manager of a software team and I got 20 slots and 16 are filled and 4 are open, and if I still hit my numbers and deliverables on those projects, and my team gets a bonus, do I share my bonus with HR because I'm short 4 people? No, right? I'd say, well, my team delivered, we got our bonuses, and I'm distributing the bonuses. But yet, every time hiring managers don't have their full headcount full, and they don't have all their positions filled, if they miss their targets, the first thing they do is they throw HR under the bus. And that's wrong. I mean, if I'm a manager of 20 people and I got 4 positions open, I need to make sure I can fill those positions as fast as possible. And when they throw HR under the bus, they're basically saying, I don't know how to hire. And so, if you have a team that doesn't, hiring managers need to learn how to hire. They need to learn how to have a bench of people that they can call on. So earlier in the chat, we talked about, hey, find 6 to 10 managers and build relationships for them.
Sure.
On the opposite side, hiring managers should have 5 to 6 people that they know that as soon as they have an opening, they can pick up the phone and go, these 3, I got an opening. We've been talking for 6 months. I got an opening. I want you to come in and apply. And I'm going to make sure that HR puts you into my interviewing schedule with maybe 3 people from the application tracking system. And hiring managers just don't do that. Hiring managers sit there and go, where's my 20 resumes that I need to filter? Like you said earlier, Chuck, I got 150 resumes for a position. I'm going to send 20 to the hiring manager and have the hiring manager pick out, 6 that we should phone screen. That's totally wrong. HR needs to tell hiring people, we take care of promoting the brand so there's candidates available when you need them. Your job is to make sure that you have candidates you know about and want to work for us and want to work for you. Because, you can be a great company like Red Hat, but I'm sure not every Red Hat manager is awesome.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to work for a terrible manager at Red Hat. I mean, it's just that way. Right. So, every hiring manager needs to be responsible for placing people, getting people in as fast as possible. And they need to realize they own that, not HR.
Sure. Jerel, I love how you went full circle here on me. You went from, talking about candidates in their search for a new job should be having relations with the 5, 6, 7 hiring managers. Then you brought it all the way around and put it back on the hiring manager and said they need to be having conversations with those candidates as well. I love that perspective and appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome, Chuck.
Sure. We're wrapped up here, but Jerel, tell listeners how they can find you.
Sure. They can find me on LinkedIn, Jerel Bonner, and there's some Chinese characters next to my Chinese name, so you can find me there. Or you can go to the company website, corrallingchaos.com, and that's CORRALLING chaos, CHAOS. We have a lot of learning material. In fact, I have a set of program web videos on our website about the employer value proposition. And I talk a little bit more about the talent bench, which is how do hiring managers have talent benches. We have all kinds of papers about how to stay ahead of the field and be a learning agile individual and a learning agile employer. So they can find us there. Again, we're pretty lucky, Chuck, because at the beginning of the podcast you said, "Hey, great name." If you type in Corralling Chaos on LinkedIn, we are the only company that shows up, and if you Google us, we are the only company that shows up.
That's good branding.
Thanks. Great branding,
yeah. Thanks, Jerel. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chuck, and I look forward to running into you at some of our other upcoming networking events.
Likewise. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Candidate Experience Podcast. You can reach out to us via our website, thecx.xyz. That's thecx.xyz.